Hello, everybody. It's time to talk about fashion. I hope you're interested in fashion, and especially in sustainable fashion. Anna, for me, is the person who found solution to maybe make fashion a little bit nicer to the planet and to the world, and make good things that are guilt-free. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So what inspired you to found the ELV Denim?
Well, I was a stylist. I was a stylist for different magazines for about 25 years. And during that time, towards the end of that time, I realized that I was probably part of the problem without even realizing. And I don't think when you're so close to an industry, you're not conscious of what's around. You just go through the motions. And having a few clients in the high street and being on shoots with them and learning and being quite incredulous about their proposals and what they were suggesting, I was like, my God, this is awful. So I decided to do a bit of research, and I started researching into different materials. And I am a denim lover, always worn jeans. And I realized the garments I was wearing were literally the most polluting garments in the world. I don't know whether you've heard all the statistics, but it takes the same amount of water as you drink in 13 years to make one pair of jeans.
That's a good reaction. Yeah. That's exactly what we want.
And my son at the time wasn't quite 13. And I was like, my God, that's awful. I had so many pairs of jeans in my wardrobe. And as a stylist, I'm always asked that question, where can I get a pair of jeans? Why is jeans so difficult? Why is jeans awful? Why? And I just thought, why is it really hard for most women to find a pair of jeans that fit? Why do women have to conform to what they're given? Why are the jeans not conforming to us? So I decided to take all that information and my know-how, and I decided to change the way that jeans were designed. Because also jeans were designed by men for men since 1892, and we haven't really changed it. And I thought that has got to be wrong. So I figured that I could take lots of different jeans that already existed because they've already cost the earth so much. And so by reworking these, because the industry is producing currently we produce 4 billion pairs of jeans a year. And there are 8 billion people in the world. So it doesn't take much. People ask me where I get that quote from, and I'm like, well, who created that quote? And I said, well, I did. And they're like, well, where's your evidence? And I said, well, the World Health Organization quotes us as being a population of 8 billion. And then Newsweek, who are very reputable, they have the statistics that we're producing 4 billion pairs of jeans a year, and that's set to produce by 6 billion by 2030, 6 billion pairs. So we're not stopping. So I decided to take all those jeans that people are throwing away, because jeans aren't, that's probably the one thing that I was finding when I was doing my research. That's what we're throwing away the most, is our denim. So I decided to take all those jeans that were discarded because they're misshapen, large sizes, damaged, and I decided to take all the jeans that weren't loved in the world and make them into something that could be loved. So I was doing this at the same time as I was being a stylist, and this is when how we met. And I just thought, well, I'm going to do this all locally as well, because why am I going to produce something abroad where we have quite a lot of skill in manufacturing, and East London was the home of denim. So I thought, well, I'll find someone here to do it. That'll be easy. And so I went to some various ateliers that I'd been introduced to, and they said to me, so Anna, you're going to firstly change the way that jeans have been produced and designed and manufactured. And I said, yeah. And they're going to say, but you're not going to cut from a roll of fabric. You're going to cut from all these different random jeans of different shapes and sizes. I said, yeah. And then you're going to make size runs from 24 up to 38, so they all fit the same. I said, yeah. And they went, nah, you're not going to be able to do that. And I literally was like, well, now I'm going to do it.
I remember. I was there.
And I realised then is that people often say no to you because they don't know the answer, or it's a lot of effort, or C, which is the most important, they've got a vested interest against is saying no. But they don't want you to change. If I can interrupt,
that's one of the reasons why the luxury industry is not changing, because it's complicated, time-consuming, and needs a lot of money to change the system, and actually they are the one with the money to do it, but you're showing them how to do it.
Yeah, I think we're operating in a system that doesn't work. And so we need to find, rather than moan about it, we need to find solutions. And so then you can be the solution and the inspiration for everyone else to join. Because, I think everyone's bored about hearing, oh my God, it's why? But actually we have to focus on things that really cut through the system and create revolution. And revolution is really hard. Sometimes I feel like I'm pushing up a tsunami up a hill, but then I see someone on the street wearing my jeans and it makes it all worthwhile. And they say to me, I've never found a pair of jeans to fit before until I found your jeans. And that for me that was the kind of the things that makes me really happy about what I do.
So let me ask you, because I've seen it and I find it very interesting. Can you tell us exactly how it works? So, people design, then they buy fabrics, they design, and then they bring the fabric to a producer with a pattern, whatever. Your system is completely different.
Yeah.
How does it work?
So I don't design and then find the material. The material is in front of me and I create something from that. So it's very much the other way around. So when I source all my jeans from vintage wholesale companies, and vintage wholesale companies are where we find bales and bales and bales of jeans. So you literally have to get into a bale that's probably at the size from this up to there, and you literally climb in and you handpick and you take everything out one by one. But when you kind of think, people always ask me, where does it come from? And I used to think when I first started that everything that I got from the UK came from the UK. And then I'd find out more and more and more. And when everyone gives their clothes to the charity shop, you think you're doing your best in giving it a new life. Charity shops can't absorb the amount of clothes they get given. It's absolutely impossible. So they work with textile associations who will come and collect. And all that waste, that textile waste, has a value. And they get paid by the kilo, which is great for them. And then the textile association will take it away. Up until, I guess, the last 25 years, we used to sort all our textile waste here. We'd divide it into categories and it would get processed. But now, because labour, nobody wants to do that job. It's not sexy, it's not fun. Nobody wants to do it, and also the price is too expensive. All textile associations have partners in different places around the world. And so one of the textile associations will work with someone in Pakistan, and they will send all the clothes over to Pakistan, and then people there divide it into categories, and then vintage wholesalers will buy it back. So that's literally what happens. So, and then I will go up and I'll handpick from one of the the vintage warehouses. I'll handpick everything I want. All vintage stores, you get from different places around the country, they'll also go and handpick for their customers. And then at the end of the month, the vintage wholesale company will be getting a new delivery. So the textile association comes in, clears the whole warehouse, and maybe they're contacting the person in Pakistan, but that one's full. So they'll go to one in India or Vietnam or the Dominican Republic or Eastern Germany. So this textile waste goes backwards and forwards. And it's fine if you're taking something that has a value, small size jeans, A-grade quality, that's fine. It's easy to find a home for that. But what it's really hard to find a home for is something that is considered unwanted.
Right. But so where does it go unless someone like you buys it back?
Well, it will just carry on going backwards and forwards.
And then it goes in landfill. And
then it will either go in landfill or it will end up in a market in Ghana. So that's where it really does end up. And then you see the trawls and...
But so let's take the positive. Yeah. So you go there and then let's talk about denim first.
Sorry, I was moaning about the situation then.
You take anything? How does it... Or you take without looking, or you pick one by one?
Sometimes we can go and handpick. That's an ideal situation. But as we've grown and grown, we need more jeans. So we'll sometimes take bales from companies when we don't know what we're going to get. So as I started the brand, I created one jean and
one shape.
One style. But as I realized what more and more things I was getting that didn't suit that style, I had to I created more and more products that were designed to work with something that the other one wasn't. So, for example, one jean could become 7 different styles, or one vintage jean could become one style. So it's trying to work out what you can design and different jeans. So the jean I'm wearing now was because we had loads of short jeans and we couldn't make them into our longer styles. So therefore you have to literally design from what other people see as waste, but I see as a valuable resource. And I think that's the change. Everyone sees clothes that nobody wants as a problem, but actually I see it as a really valuable resource, and that's why we have to change the luxury players, everybody, the high street players, everybody, their mindset about fabric and how valuable it is.
And so how do you go to the factory then? You go to with jeans pair 2x2?
So anyway, thank you, it brought me back. I tended to go off tangents.
That's my job.
Sorry. So the vintage, we get all the jeans.
I know the story sort of, so it helps.
Oh, I know. Thank you, Mim. So anyway, so we get all the jeans. They come, and there's a chap called Korosh who has a laundrette in Clapton, and he's been washing the jeans for me for about 8 years. And this is kind of part of the important part of ELV for me, is that I've been working with the same people for so long. And Korosh, I've seen through his whole life. I've seen his son go from school to university. Now he's like studying. He's going to be a doctor. And it's that really set community for me is really important. So Korosh watches them, and then he brings them back to us, and then they all get graded. Every single jean has about 7 or 8 measurements, which allows me to understand what they become.
What's a grade?
So grading would be the length of the inside length, the outside length.
So I'm saying this not to annoy you, but to show you how difficult it is. It's much more complicated.
So then in the front rise, the back rise, the waist, and then the opening of the original jean of the legs. It allows us to be able to say what size. I mean, I'm wearing the Arcola, which is one of our new jeans that is actually, if I stand up, it's much easier. So you can see there's one jean here and one jean here. And so I've taken the good part of one jean and the good part of another one here and put them together. And so this is why the jean is so different, because you've got the seam allowance up the middle, which really is much more respectful to a woman's body and shape with the curves. We have hips and bottoms and waists and thighs, which is all circular. And when jeans were designed before, they were made flat. So one seam here, one seam there. And I don't know if you've ever tried to alter a pair of jeans to try and make them fit. It's not easy. So this seamed up the middle means that a woman can actually be able to tailor that jean to their shape if they want. And lots of people actually don't need to. And then we have seam allowance. Again, I'll stand up. Seam allowance here, which means the jean can evolve with you. It gets bigger or smaller. Because again, women change their shape through all their lives, from the moment they hit puberty up until menopause and beyond. Shapes evolve. And again, I think a quality garment that lasts should evolve with you. And so
okay, so you go to a factory and probably, I guess it's been hard to find someone who accepts to do it that way and more expensive?
Yeah, yes, because when you traditionally cut, all the material gets put one on top of each other and you get a massive big kind of cutting saw and you cut around it really quickly. Whereas ours, every jean has to be laid down individually, hand cut, and it takes a lot of time. So the first factory atelier I worked with, they were really interested about the process, but then it started interrupting their processes with their other products. And so it made me realise that I'm talking this language that I have to then make sure that I'm translating that language to all my stakeholders, whether it be the ateliers I'm working with, whether it's the retailers, whether it's the final customer, because they've got to understand the process easy. Because if you make it really hard, people don't like things being hard. I've got to do the hard job for everybody. So the one other lesson that I really learned is don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I had one atelier I was working with, and then after about 3 years, they went, "Nah, we don't want to do this anymore. It's really hard." And I said, okay. So, but now we've found 4 or 5 amazing ateliers that love what we're doing, because they see that this is the future, that we have enough clothes. There are enough clothes to last the next 6 generations that already exist now. And all brands, no matter fast fashion, high street, like contemporary, luxury, they're all overproducing now. When I started in this industry 25 years ago, when I started in 1995, and luxury then, they were producing one garment and they produced it about 200 of them, and each store and each country had a different one. But now these luxury houses are producing tens and 20,000s of something, so it's all getting so diluted. So we're getting this problem where we're overproducing and brands are storing and holding on to all this excess inventory, faulty garments, customer returns, but then they're not actually thinking what they can creatively do with it. So we're getting ourselves into a problem where we have so many clothes.
Well, that we get there because I think that opens some doors for your scaling up.
Yeah, and sorry.
But I wanted to ask you another thing that I think it's interesting for them.
I didn't answer what you said before. Sorry. No. So it's because the ateliers that I'm working with, they see that this is the future, that they all have to learn how to do it. Because then when all larger companies start coming to them and saying, well, actually, we needed some experts, I can then say, and we share all the people we work with, because I don't believe we should gatekeep any information. I want to share everything that we do so everybody can be better. So it's a process, but again, we have to make sure that what we're doing isn't interrupting the other clients they work with, because I don't want them to kind of go bust because they're on my mission.
Yeah, but I mean, denim is in the name of your brand, so it's important, but I think it's also good to explain that the story about the bed sheets, you know, the hotel, you know, because there's so much material in the world that is going to be thrown away, burned, whatever, and you can be creative with it. So
so I started with jeans and then went into shirts and jackets, all within denim. And then when I was at one vintage wholesaler, I found this huge big crate of striped shirts. And I was like, oh, this will be nice. So we started creating the Diana shirt that was named after my mum, because she always wore striped shirts. And so again, 2 shirts make 2 shirts. But if the shirt is only half, because lots of times like there'll be a rip on the collar, or there'll be, so only half is viable. So we'll put half and half together. And with the other halves, we use them as patches for the pockets. And so we're always constantly trying to think of what we'll use for it. And then blazers, you're modelling our new Jamie blazer. So again, shirts, and then started thinking about other textiles and other industries, and we started upcycling bed linen from hotels. So we make shirts, we're doing little kind of shorts and tops, you know, trying to, because the hotel industry, again, it all gets burned, all their textiles, all those bed linen. Once it's got a rip in it, that's it, it's gone. And so I want to try and find a solution that everyone else can share. And we do a lot of student talks, and I say to them, look, if you're looking for material for toiling, don't go and buy anything. Go to your local hotel and ask them for some sheets. And it's just a case of trying to inspire everybody to look for wares around them. But you have to make everything really elegant. We have to be very careful and respectful when you're reworking something, because you've got even more duty and responsibility to make it into an elegant piece that someone's going to wear and love forever, because otherwise you're just making it as bad as it was in the first place.
Yeah. I want to talk about greenwashing, because I know you and I know how you're frustrated when you see how the big luxury brands, or also the big mass market brands, they cut corners and they talk about their being sustainable by explaining things that Anna thinks they're BS and absolutely not real. So what do you think about, you know, greenwashing, which, by the way, it's a little bit less in trend right now, and it's probably because the word sustainability, it's a little bit less in trend. But how do you think you can explain to the people and to the brand that recycling is not the solution, for instance?
So again, we now have, well, how I say, everybody wants an easy solution, don't they? They want an easier solution. They don't have to think, and fashion brands can carry on producing the way we're producing, but then we'll recycle all the things we don't want. We'll give it to someone else for them to recycle. They can make loads of material, but we won't take it back. We'll just leave it for them, because then someone else will buy it. And so that's what's happening now, where I was in Hong Kong in December because I was invited to speak at this Future Fashion Summit. And just before I went on, this factory were talking about the millions of rolls they were making in recycled material. And I was like, is anyone buying them? Nobody's buying it. That's the problem. No one's buying it. So I find that when everyone talks about recycling as the solution, it kind of just makes me so upset, because we're now going to be in a situation where the excess in all the material we have is going to be the problem. And yeah,
so you mean there will be excess of recycling material that nobody uses?
That no one uses. But
why? Because it's not good
the quality isn't as good.
Because it's not quality?
The quality is not very good. I mean, it's very hard. If I showed you a piece of recycled material that cost £100 and a piece of recycled material that cost £1, you wouldn't know the kind of level of recycling quality that was in it. It's really hard to be able to tell what's what. So the really amazing quality of recycled material is so few and far between because nobody wants to pay for that. Everybody wants to pay for cheap recycled material. And that's where the fast fashion brands all say it's recycled, but the quantity of recycled material is probably only 1 or 2%. But that's enough for it to be said it's recycled. So you don't have to even have a large quantity. You can use virgin fibres and 1% recycled material and label it as recycled.
So you're saying it's all a lie?
Majority of it is, yeah.
Okay, so what the solution, we said it a little bit, but will they find out? I mean, who?
It's really interesting.
I'm frustrated just to hear this.
I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago, and I was feeling quite cross before I arrived because I was on a panel with Primark, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself in this position where I'm speaking on a level with their sustainability director? And so I just introduced myself first, and Martina, who works for me in marketing, she was like, oh God, that was good. She didn't explode. And so then everyone else introduced themselves. And this woman from Primark, and this was the thing that she goes, well, with Primark Cares, our jeans will last 45 washes.
Exactly.
And I was
again, good reaction.
And everyone started kind of clapping. I went, have you just listened to what she said? That's bonkers. And so the other people spoke, and the lady who obviously didn't see steam coming out of my head said, oh, the second question. I said, oh, can I just take the second question? And before you say that, really? Is this okay? And I said, I'm so sorry, but I don't think this is okay. And I said, what really frustrates me is that there should be only certain words that I can use, and you can't use the word sustainable, because sustainability is, if you take something out, you put something back in to kind of nullify it, so everything's the same. That's really what it is. And sustainability is common sense. We all know what's right and wrong. We just choose, or maybe just don't, a bit like with me in the industry, it's so in front of you, but you don't necessarily see it. And you have to, when your eyes have kind of, well, I suppose that was woke, isn't it? When you've woken up to the reality, then you can see. And I just said to them, you can't have a sustainability department. You can have a we can try harder department, and be honest about it. Just honestly be honest, because nobody believes this. And I'm not going to be the one that's screaming about it. I mean, I did lose my cool slightly then, but but I'm always worried that if you're the one person in the room, I don't know if you've always all seen that film, Don't Look Up. And Jennifer Lawrence is like, ah! And it's that image that gets as a meme, and it's like processed around the whole world. And I don't want to be that person, because I want to be elegant and refined and look at the clothes. But I do get frustrated.
You have to be.
You have to be, because you have to just so...
But that's interesting, because there is this paradox between the all the brands we know, from Primark up, and I'm saying up to Uniqlo and H&M, etc., they were born to be the alternative to luxury, because everybody has the right to want trend and fashion, and it's completely inaccessible, the luxury brand. So, democratizing fashion seems to be a good thing, but even when they want to be good, the paradox is that they need to produce a lot to keep the prices so low. And so for me, first of all, it's a little bit of a scandal that a pair of jeans costs like a coffee at Starbucks, and people want to pay £5 for a pair of jeans, but they will buy 2 lattes a day and spend 10 grand, so £10. So that's a little bit of the paradox. But you can't go to the CEO of one of those groups that has shareholders and the economy and everything and say, you have to produce half. So what would you tell them? And it will not exist. that's
No,
impossible.
I can't change the status quo, and we can't. But we also have to kind of think about there's certain facts that you have at your fingertips that, I'm not an environmentalist at all. I'm an environmental enthusiast, and I believe in common sense and common sense innovation. And when you learn, if you look back at clothes cost, a dress, for example, in 1920 cost £20. And now a dress
costs 15.
And now it costs less. And I don't think there's another commodity where the value of something has decreased so much. And in those days, people just didn't, even the wealthy didn't have huge wardrobes, and they replaced them and they mended them. And I'm not saying we can go back 100 years, and I'm not saying we can even go back into the 70s before the kind of fast fashion boom in the 80s. But I think we just have to be really mindful about how we're producing, and understanding that when, let's just use Primark, 'cause they're in my bad books, but they're producing, they will, instead of producing 500, they'll produce 1,000 because it's cheaper, but they know they can only sell 500. So then those 500 sit in a warehouse and do nothing and it gets built into the cost price, and the markdown gets built into the cost price, and the cost price of a T-shirt is like $1.99, and that to me is insane. So, but what we have to do is deal with kind of the excess inventory and trying to get everyone to realise that we've got certain regulations that are coming into effect at the end of this decade. Extended producer responsibility, where a brand will have to take responsibility for everything they've produced, whether it's excess inventory, faulty, customer returns. So now I'm sure you've all been into different stores, like retail stores, department stores, brand store, they have a box where you can exchange 5 items for a voucher. So those take-back schemes are a little bit, at the moment, the same as I explained before. It may look like they're doing a really good thing, but actually they're passing it on to someone else to make it someone else's problem. But soon they're going to have a solution for that in-house, and they won't be able to give it to someone else.
Enters you.
Yes.
And tell them how to do it,
yes.
right?
Yes. So I now know how I can take a retailer or a brand's excess inventory and rework it. So it runs alongside their current selection. So there's outerwear, shirting, denim, accessories, upcycled, shirting, and whatever the other... And it's like setting up a new accessory brand, a division. So you can go in and it's taking those supply chains that are considered waste and actually see it as a resource. So all those supply chains are in place. You just have to kind of adapt them slightly, and then you start reworking them, and you start taking those excess inventory and turning it into something new, and you run it alongside. And those things might not necessarily be as profit-inducing as their other brand, but this is where they have a responsibility to try and balance those out. And this is what I've learned. I can turn something that's nothing into something really beautiful. And we have solutions for everything. We crochet tiny little scraps. We turn all our denim and our scraps into paper. So we have a solution for every single part of jean that comes to us or product.
Just quickly before we're taking our mics off, a price. As I said before, the luxury industry has gone bonkers in price, so even the wealthy cannot afford it anymore. And I think there is this space in the middle which would be yours to be grabbed, to be taken. But people, especially when it comes to denim, they want it very cheap, and your denim cannot be too cheap. A, it wouldn't be sustainable, and B, as we said, it's complicated, etc., etc. So how do you convince someone then that £300 for a pair of denim, that it's sustainable? Maybe you can have one instead of 5, but it's a good thing.
The jean that we make for you or for anyone is one of a kind. It's a unique piece that you have in your wardrobe, and it is not the same as anybody else's. And I think the definition of luxury now, for me, is having something that lasts a lifetime for you, that it doesn't last 45 washes, that it evolves with you. It's designed to evolve with you throughout your lifetime. And I think all the products we do, and there's something special in having something that no one else has. And it's not something that only the few kind of high echelons people can get. Everybody has access to that. And, it's also that kind of that memory. We do, these shirts belonged to were my father's, and I took them and I've reworked them into ones for me and my sister and brother. And having those memory pieces, I think, is so important. It evokes something that you want to hold on to and you're proud of and you celebrate it. And having a few things that are unique to you is so much better than having 35 pieces that, or more that everyone else has. And I think there's a special story in being able to say to someone, oh, that's an amazing jacket, where did it come from? And then you have a story to tell. It's not like, oh, I got it from, the same as it. I don't know, I think when I was in the, as I said, when I was in the industry, everything was so small and it felt selected. But now there's so much consumption, and I think people are bored of looking the same as everybody else. And I hope I can, I think so.
We were just hearing to the culture talk where people want all the same thing.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
Yes, you were.
Right?
Well, there's always someone that's going to be saying no, and that's me.
Okay, we've only got a few minutes left, so I just wanted to see if we've got any audience questions.